Hi all, I'm Cullen Haynes and welcome to Lawyer Lending Live. Happy Wednesday and thank you for anyone tuning in, rewatching the stream or on the podcast, eventually when we upload it and start this show. My next guest is an absolute property behemoth, 12 years investing himself, one of the fittest men I know. Marathons, ultra marathons, you name it, he does it. And obviously a founder and director of Living Property and 6 years in business as well. Can you please make very welcome the one, the only, Mr. Oliver Jackson. Welcome, Oliver. Looking very dapper on me.
Oh, thank you, mate. That's a big one. Fittest man in property. That's a good one.
Fittest man in property, not only physically, but also what you do for our clients with all the pretenders in the industry, real estate agents and whatnot. And I've got a lot of friends, so no dissing them, but obviously there's some bad eggs in there, and you're trying to change that for clients, being a buyer's advocate, which is very different. And you're all about letting people break free, which is what I put the topic and theme of the chat. I'd love to know what breaking free means to you.
Freedom, mate. Freedom to spend time with your family, to do what you want to do when you want to do it, to have the ability, if you don't like your job, to be able to quit and then chase your purpose. And property is what did that for me. It got me out of the construction industry after 12 years and made me be able to start my business.
Which is incredible. And the interesting thing about you, Ollie, is that you consider your clients your friends, which many people say don't mix business and pleasure, and you don't want to be seeing them after hours and all that stuff. You're the complete opposite. You're an anomaly, my friend. You're an anomaly.
100%, man. Buying a property for someone, it can be millions of dollars, is it's like a marriage. So you're going through one of the most stressful things that people ever go through. If you don't create a good relationship with someone doing that, then, mate, there's something wrong with you. So,
very, very true. Very true.
Best part about it is once you give someone the dream of owning a home, mate, to sit down and have a beer or go for dinner, or, man, I play golf. I've done an Ironman with a client before. Halfway through the process of buying a property, we both realized we're into Ironman. I got him in with my coach. So we both got coached by the same person. We went to Sunny Coast and we did an Ironman together. I've bought him multiple properties since, and he's now one of my good mates. And that was all just started with a referral from a mortgage broker to help him buy a property.
Fantastic. So literally Living Property is living proof that you're living what you're saying. Am I picking up what I'm putting down? Anyone joining, please?
100%. Definitely.
And we've got guests joining. Ben Cunningham says, good on you, CPH. Thank you, Ben. A legend in his own right. Love the jacket in that photo too. And I would suggest people, if you are tuning in, it is 11:12 Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions for this behemoth, a lot of our legal professionals, lawyers and real estate agents don't mix. Ollie is not a real estate agent. He's a buyer's advocate. So put all your questions in there. The idea of a buyer's agent is that ideally they negotiate the price better than you could have yourself. Find properties that you would never have been able to get on domain and realestate.com off market, and save you time, effort, and whatnot. From the mortgage broking side, we say we're in the business of time. It's 31 hours for an application. How long would you say you save for your clients when they're looking at a home? Would you say, Ollie, from a time perspective?
If you think about, let's say you're in like an Adelaide where there's 50 or 60 offers going in on houses at the moment. If you're sitting on real estate and domain every weekend or all week when you've got time in between clients or in between work, and then you go to say 4 or 5 open homes, and then there's 50 people putting in offers, mate, that could be months of your time, 6 months, plus the relationship breakdowns that people have because it gets so stressful. To be honest, I buy 95% of my properties off market, so I don't really buy much online on real estate and domain. So yes, mate, we could save people's marriages and 6 months of their life.
Well, it came to me because pre-approval lasts 90 days, and many of our clients, elite clients, that have the means to do so and invest in a buyer's advocate, they say, I'm just going to do it myself. And I say, you're more than welcome to. Try it for 3 months and see how it goes. Now, 3 months is 4 weekends a month. That's 12 in the 3-month period that they have their pre-approval. That's if they're going to properties on Saturday and Sunday, it's a lot of hours spent doing that footwork and getting disheartened when you go to these open homes and the agents cleverly put the asking price below expectations. So you get like 30, 40, 50 people going to the same open home, which is the problem in this market, especially in Sydney. We can talk to the other areas. There is not much stock right now. More's coming, but it's this spring buying mentality is kicked off.
Yeah, mate. The whole country's like that. There is not much property on the market, and the stuff that is on the market is pretty average. So if you've got bad property out there, now's a good time to offload it because people will just snap it up. So for me, I still have we have a framework of the properties that we buy, no matter what the market's doing. And at the moment, those properties are a lot harder to find. So it's probably twice the amount of hours that we used to have to put into buying a property at the moment.
Wow. Okay. Double the amount of time that you're doing researching, investigating, things like that.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of phone calls.
And yeah, definitely. But there are gems out there. You know, a bit of clickbait. Where are you seeing the opportunities that you're finding for your clients?
Well, obviously it's case by case. So we like to build people property portfolio, not just buy one property and then see you later. You know, as I said, it's not just a friendship. We're building a business relationship. So depending on the client, depending on what they want to do, if they want to retire on $2,000 a week or 10 grand a week by the time they're 50, 60, 70, we reverse engineer that with a platform that we use that actually shows us how we're going to get to their goal. And then we go and find the properties. So if you've got $300,000 or $3 million, it's going to be a very different way we're going to do it. We like to buy existing property. We buy Australia-wide, a big basis on renovation for extracting equity and increasing rents. So to answer your question, depending on the budget, but Brisbane, Adelaide, all through regional Queensland, New South Wales, not so much at the moment. A little bit of Victoria, but yeah, mainly Queensland and South Australia at the moment.
Interesting. Why in New South Wales? What are you finding the bugbear or the pain points with New South Wales is at the moment?
It's just expensive, overpriced, and the rents aren't so good. So I guess property moves in cycles. At the moment, New South Wales isn't the spot. I mean, you know how much Sydney costs, and you know your rental yields at 2%.
It does. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So yeah, that's one of the drawbacks I would say of one of the most expensive cities on earth, Sydney especially.
Yeah, top 7, I think, isn't it? Most expensive.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Just near London, Singapore, and Hong Kong.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
New York, of course. And New York, absolutely. I get this question a lot, and I'll throw it out there, Ollie. Should I buy my home? Or rent vest and buy an investment property? What is your advice when you get that chestnut thrown at you, mon ami?
Well, it all depends on kids, age, and what your goals are. So if you're young, you've got no kids, rent vesting all the way. If you are a kind of person that's stuck in your ways and you really like to live in a certain suburb and your kids are going to go to that school, and you can buy the so-called dream house, yeah, go for it. Me personally, what I do is I buy houses I'm going to live in because I'm going to buy something that's undervalued and something that I can renovate. So I might buy it, renovate it while I'm living in it. And then it doesn't really matter if I move because I've already increased the value, so then I can sell it. But it definitely does hamstring people to buy more investment properties. So it really just depends on where you're at.
Yes.
If you've got kids and you've got an area you love and you can afford to buy there, which most people can't afford to buy where they want to live. That's why they like to rent.
Of course. Yes.
So if you can afford it, go for it. You know, if you're going to use the first homeowner grants and stuff, which you can't really do in Sydney because it's too expensive. So it's case by case basis. Personally, you know, I like to live in my own house. I got my kids, they go to the school. I personally renovate it. So for me, I can move, rent it out or sell it. And I've made equity out of it. So yeah, it really just depends on the person.
Oh, okay. So good to know. And because I know talking about grants, another Grant Cardone, who's a big property buff in the States, talks about rent vesting and why would you ever want to live in your home? But it's a very different market over there. And I think there's pros and cons. And I think what you said, I'm endeared by what you're saying by children, because I've got our 7-month-old now. I can think of nothing worse than the landlord calling to say, hey, we're thinking of selling. You're going to have to look elsewhere. It's like, oh, what a hassle, right?
So that's why I actually bought my newest house, was because where I live around Byron Bay, it's a very high Airbnb kind of area. So every 6 months you can just get kicked out. And then what do you do? Moving with kids is an absolute nightmare. So sometimes you're better off buying.
100%.
Grant Cardone.
No, exactly.
Grant Cardone did just buy a $40 million house to live in, though.
Oh, there you go. Not practicing what he preaches. That's the thing. That's the thing. And we've got some, yeah, and we got some guests joining the show. Darren Mort, leading mediator and barrister and author. He just came out with Isla's song, and he's got his book launch coming up in Melbourne. Be sure to check out the website, and he's a bit of a fan of yours, Ollie. So thank you for joining, Darren. Any
Darren.
questions? Anyone? Yeah, he's a good that Dazzler, as he's known online.
The
which
Dazzler.
is awesome. And just a quick shout out: 13th of September at 6:30 is where the book launches for Isla's song in St Kilda. Alex Theatre in St Kilda. Is that a good area to buy in St Kilda in Victoria? What do you reckon, Ollie?
I lived there for 10 years. I love St Kilda. Good place best place to live, I think, Elwood, St Kilda. Investing, if you could buy a house there, because there's a lot of apartments. But, a house in St Kilda is several million dollars.
Yeah, they're quite exy, that's for sure. That's for sure. But you're all about the long-term relationship with the client and making sure that it's scalable, their strategy. And one thing I found interesting in a recent conversation with you, you said offhand that you've got like 3 or 4 projects you're managing, and you're also, because you're in the construction industry, you're helping them with their building. Tell me more about that, because there's not many buyers agents have the speciality project people and their properties.
Yeah, I've got 7 renos in 3 states at the moment that we're doing for clients. Did about 20 last year. So yeah, part of my strategy is buy, renovate, extract equity, increase rent. So you're buying existing properties, an older house that you can do some value to it, renovation or so on. So we actually project manage the whole renovation for clients, no matter if we're talking cosmetic renovations. Some are $5,000, some are $50,000. We're not doing development so much. That's a totally different business. So yeah, we project manage those. To be honest, I've done them all for free. Probably shouldn't promote that. Should probably start charging for it. But every single client I've renovated for has bought another house. So, it's good for them, it's good for me, and it makes them rich. So yeah, great strategy.
Well, that's what I love. That I'm putting that in there because this man wears his heart on his sleeve, and that really is a testament to what you're saying about the friendships you're forging with clients. The fact that you're doing this, you don't even actually make any money out of this, but you are making your clients money, I think is fantastic. So 5K to 50K is your sweet spot on those properties, and that's obviously seen an uplift in the value to extract equity and obviously increase the rents, is what you're saying. Switching gears a little bit. Where do you think, and just calling out your tribe here, who would get value? Obviously, very busy legal professionals, of course, who have the means. Who in your tribe should invest in a buyer's agent, and when should they do so?
Well, obviously, everyone should invest in a buyer's agent. I guarantee every single person who hears this would use a real estate agent to sell their house. But for some reason in Australia, everyone seems to think that they can go buy a house because it's, you can just look in real estate and go buy a house. But there's a lot more to it. You can overpay, $50,000, $100,000 if you get emotional about it. If you buy in the wrong street, the wrong area, you could get the suburb right, but if you buy in the wrong street, then that could cost you growth in the long term.
Yes.
Realistically, the price of a buyer's agent is quite cheap, not just for the saving of the time, but the knowledge and the relationships we have with real estate agents who, if you're just a normal person, they could chuck an extra $20,000 on it. How do you know? So I work with people that are earn $60,000 a year and people that earn millions of dollars every year. So I think they're accessible to everyone now.
A growing space. I know Mr. Handler, I think is Ben Handler's got his own course that buyers agents are coming through, but you've been in the industry a long time. And I would say that gives you the edge on anyone coming in the industry. Similar to broking, there's 19,000 brokers in Australia. God bless them all. But we feel that we have the edge in the industry because obviously we've been here for 5 years and we're platinum brokers. So 100%. Big advocate for brokers, big advocate for advocates like yourself, but people need an expert who knows what they're doing. And because you do the construction element as well, I think that gives you the edge as well in terms of seeing the potential uplift in a property and letting them know, look, it might be good bones, but if we did this, this, and this, 45, 50K, I think it'd come up very nicely.
100%. So it's all about the ugly duckling. You want the worst house in the best street, and that's how you make money.
A lot of my clients seem to have that. I've got the worst house in the best street,
You
which is
buy a
good.
$500,000 house in a street that's got $1 million houses, spend 100 grand on it, mate. There you go. You've just made a year's salary, and lawyers, even on 400 grand a year, can make another salary every year.
Well, that's the thing. And I think especially when people get to the partner level where the income is 250, 300,000, it would be wise to do so for your forever home. It's called lifestyle creep. So anyone who's had a promotion and promotion season, it's just happened on LinkedIn. I've just been promoted, which is fantastic. It's funny. People's income goes up. The first thing they want to do is my phone goes on hot during promotion season because it's like, what can I afford? And it's just natural as human beings that we want to self-actualize. So if you're going to make the biggest investment of your life, I used a buyer's agent to buy a house here in Fletcher's Forest. I would highly recommend time-sensitive people to do so as well. In terms of the mistakes that people make, what are some of the things that you wish you knew when you started this journey that you could tell people now, like your top 3 things, mistakes people actually do make day in and day out before they reach you?
Number one is they go straight to ANZ and try and get a loan and not use a broker. And it's like, okay, you could go to one bank and they're going to give you this much money, but then what if you go to a broker who has 50, 60, 70 different lenders? It's actually a better product for you. So the step one is they get their finance wrong. And then they don't set it up in structures like trust structures. Like some people, it's a much better idea to have a good accountant and set everything up correctly in the first place. Because if you don't, it can hamstring you long term to buy more property if that's what your goal is. So step one is finance is number one. Number 2 is getting sold into buying off the plan or new stuff because it looks new and shiny and they looks like, oh, that's a nice house. But is it really the best investment? Never is. So you've got some companies out there flogging off tax depreciation, which they're really probably pushing to people like lawyers who make good money because then they can save money on tax. But if you're saving money on tax, you're not making money on your property. What's the point? Paying tax means you're making money. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's a good point. Good point.
So yeah, it's buying the wrong product. I know people that'll do more research to buy a pair of shoes or a $20,000 car than they do to buy a house. And they'll just go real estate domain, pick a suburb and go and try and buy a house. It's unbelievable. Like less research into buying houses than buying cars. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, not doing their research, not setting up their structures correctly, not using a mortgage broker and getting the right finance in place can really slow people down long term.
Now, with this trust structures, and there's some great insights you're making. Obviously, people should get their own financial and accounting advice. But are you seeing people when they buy a property, buy each property in a different trust or the same trust?
Yeah, so more so people buy it in their own name. So they're buying multiple properties in their own name, and then they tap out really early. So obviously, I'm not an accountant, but you set up your structures, your trusts. Usually, you do them in separate trusts. It does cost a bit of money. But to borrow money long term, you can borrow a lot more money than if it's all in your personal name. So get a good accountant.
Get a good accountant who knows what they're doing. An evil genius that doesn't go over the fence, goes under the fence, as I got told recently. I thought that was quite good. You don't want to be raising alarm bells at the ATO for sure. You want to be compliant.
That's right.
And in terms of this market, spring buying is hit. I'm getting my out, like literally everyone's phone in the office is blowing up. It was like 2 or 3 weeks, and then we had like 8 purchases in a day. It was crazy. I don't know what's happened, but I think obviously spring has arrived. Rates are on hold. What do you think? Why do you think property is booming right now? What is happening, and what's the reason for it? If there is just the one reason.
Well, property hasn't stopped going up. To be honest, really, it's kind of gone sideways in some places in markets that it should never have. Gone up so much it's dropped back, like off the plan and new apartments and so on.
Yes.
But low supply, people still have a lot of money in Australia. So that's why the market always holds up. Rents have gone up 30%. Now rates will drop, property prices will go up, and the rents are still going to be high. So this is the same cycle that always happens. So it's nothing new. People just have a very, very short memory.
I see. Yes, makes sense. And anything you're getting your clients to do in advance of this, obviously finance is one thing. Any tidbits you say before you buy a property, these are the kind of things you need to make sure you've got sorted.
Number one is having a buffer in place. So, rates are going up. if let's just say rates keep going up, you got to make sure you can cover yourself. I mean, at the moment, they look like they're going sideways. Might go down, might go up. Who knows? That's the thing. You don't know. I don't think
You
the
don't
RBA
know.
knows.
Yes.
I don't think the RBA knows. So having buffers in place, so don't stretch yourself to the limit, so you're comfortable, so you can sleep at night. If you can afford to do it, now is always the right time. There's no like waiting for anything to happen, waiting for the market to drop. I mean, generally people I've heard waiting for the market to drop and it's gone up. So yeah, just you've got your buffers in place and you can afford for if something does happen.
I see. It's kind of like that analogy. The best time to buy, like to plant a tree is 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. And I think everyone always goes, I should have done it then, should have done it 2 years ago. It's like you're saying right now is the best time if you're ready to go.
100% if you're ready to go. I've lived in Byron Bay on and off for since 1995. I mean, too many times I say to myself, man, I should have bought that house for 20 grand. Now it's worth $5 million. Happens every day.
Very good. All the time, my friend, all the time. And if you could go back to yourself, when you were younger at any age, when would you go back to yourself? What age would you be? And what would be the advice you'd give younger Ollie Jackson, my friend?
Yeah, well, I was 18. Well, it's a tough one because life is just as important as money. But when I was 18, I had a home loan to buy a house. I ended up going overseas for, I think, like 6 months by myself and spending the deposit. So, in hindsight, should have bought the house. But the memories I had from that and what I learned in my life was probably more important. So it's a tough choice when you're young, but try and save money, try and live your life. But, obviously buying property as young as possible is the best way to do it. But you've also got to live your life because when you don't get your 20s again. I mean, I wish I was 20 again. Now, when you do things, you can't just change it.
It's like a mortgage, mate. 30 years fixed. You've just got...
So you got to enjoy life, but you've also got to maybe think about the future a little bit more than I probably did. But, in my mid 20s is when I started, or late 20s started to invest. So, I'm still young. I'm only 40. Like, I've still got plenty of time.
Mate, you do not look 40, mate. You look like you're under 30, let me tell you. I always tell you that.
It's the fitness, maybe.
No, absolutely. Fit body, fit mind, and fit results you get for your client. Oliver, thank you so much for joining us, mate. It's been absolutely fantastic sharing your gems. And I think a lot of people who tuned in are going to get a lot of value out of it, my friend.
Nate, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And you've made me up my dress game every single day. I love it.
Mate, the 3-piece, you got to represent when you can. Absolutely. But mate, that jacket and you got the Google shirt as well. It's the Google look. I like it, mon ami.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again there, Ollie. Love your work. And if you're a legend of loans and you want to be on the show, feel free to reach out or know somebody who do. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll endeavor to get this uploaded as soon as possible after the